Val The Gal on 1017 The Zoo.
Is this Pistol Pete?
This is.
All right, so what is your real name, Pistol Pete?
My real name is Parker Wilson.
Now, where are you originally from?
I'm from Sepulpa, Oklahoma. I went to Metro Christian Academy there in Tulsa my whole life.
Okay. I'm so glad you took time today to talk with me because, first off, I'm going to start off with everybody's going to want to know if you have seen the social media posts that spread about you, Mr. Pistol Pete, about being the worst mascot in the nation. I want you to talk about how you feel about this.
Well, this is news to me. I have no clue what you're talking about.
You have no idea what I'm talking about?
I'm just kidding. I think I had probably 50 people send me that article that day. And I remember waking up and I was like, what the heck? I thought we were voted Pistol Pete was voted the best mascot maybe like last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This is like a drastic turn.
Listen, after meeting you and having you at an event recently, I can definitely contradict by saying Pistol Pete is not the worst mascot. And that's coming from an OU fan. So I feel like that's got a little weight to it, okay?
Hey, I appreciate it. I just try to do the best we can, and if people have their opinion, they have their opinion. But we're just gonna stick to it.
Now, how does one become Pistol Pete?
So there is a big, lengthy tryout process when it comes to trying out for Pistol Pete. The person in charge, her name's Becky Jackson. She's the pom coach. She does overall spirit. And there's a panel of past Pistol Petes that come in and they judge. And there's usually about 20 to 25 people, students who come in and try out. And basically, it's just a really kind of grueling interview process. They want the best of the best, and they'll ask you, what you've done your whole life. They're really looking for a person who's going to represent the university well, and not do anything out of the bounds.
Sure.
It's a outstanding honor to be able to do this. This is the greatest thing I'll probably ever get to do in my life, and I'm just happy I get to represent Oklahoma State and do what I do.
Now, you're kind of a legacy Pistol Pete, as I understand, right?
I am. Yep. My dad was the 39th Pistol Pete. I am the 91st Pistol Pete. He did it for cool. 2 years in college. So I grew up going to Oklahoma State games on the weekends, every single weekend. And I was around all of his friends. All of his friends are Pistol Petes. And, I every homecoming I was on the float. I drove the float one time. And, that was my life. And my dad, actually, he was one of the head judges for picking the Pistol Petes.
Oh, well, then we know how you got it. We know how you got it now.
Exactly, yeah. I was just a shoe-in, right? Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny story. I think when I was 6 years old, I remember I was going to a Pistol Pete tryout with them, and they would use me as props. They'll tell guys, put the head on, let's see how you look, and they would run me out there and say, all right, Parker, act like you're crying. Pete, what are you going to do when a kid's crying? Use me as a prop. And I remember this very vividly. When I was 6 years old, it was right before they announced the new statue that they have of Pistol Pete there in Gallagher, and it was drying at the time. And the artist was actually there while they were doing Pistol Pete tryouts, and I remember the artist came down, and we were hanging out with her for a little bit, and she just took my hand and took me away to the statue, and no one was there, and she put me up, and while it was still drying, she pressed my hand in the backside of the gun. There in Gallagher on that statue. So my fingerprints are actually in the statue of Pistol Pete there in Gallagher. Yeah, wild story. So I guess you could call it destiny.
It absolutely was. That's incredible. That's like some witch doctor stuff she did. Here, put your hand on.
I know. It's like I didn't even have a choice, I kind of had to be Pistol Pete at that point.
So being Pistol Pete, I'm sure that you run into a lot of crazy situations. I don't know if anybody knows this, but you can have Pistol Pete come to different events, whether it's a wedding or a birthday party, or for us, it was a birthday party / kind of sports party. But I'm telling you, people will do weird things around mascots or think mascots aren't looking, or you've got to have some good stories being Pistol Pete.
Yeah, I have a ton. You know, everyone who always, they ask me, "Oh, you're Pistol Pete." I'm like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah. They're like, "Oh, we see you at the games," and people don't understand that the sporting events are really about 5% of the stuff I actually do.
Oh, wow.
It's me and then another guy named Michael Albright. There's two Pistol Petes, and we do about 5 or 6 weddings a weekend. We're going all over, state of Oklahoma, sometimes Texas, Arkansas, and we do all kinds of events, and it's great. I've got a couple stories I'll tell. So, wedding wise, and this has never happened to me before. This is probably my wildest story, but I showed up to a wedding, and one of the lady who got me to come to the wedding, she's talking to me as I get there, and she's like, "Well, did you hear about the bride's husband or the bride's dad, my husband?" I was like, "No, what happened?" He's like, "Oh, well, he actually died here recently." And I was like, "Oh, wow."
Oh.
I'm sorry to hear that. And she's like, "Well, we need Pistol Pete to do the father-daughter dance." And I was like, wow. And as like, I'm 22 years old, and it's kind of a strange deal, but I mean, people love Pistol Pete, and it just puts it in perspective for you of like how much, that image of that mascot really means to people. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, you don't have a brother or uncle, but I mean, just the magnitude of that, it really puts it in perspective. I'm doing it every day, so it kind of gets lost, but
sure.
People really, really do love this, and it kind of takes me back, and it's like, wow, what I'm doing it really makes a difference for people. So that's probably my wildest wedding story. I have a really cool event I did in Florida. I don't know if anyone's listening are golf fans, but it was the TaylorMade event there in Florida. You see, Tiger Woods is doing it, Ricky Fowler, Matt Wolff, all those guys. And it was right before they announced the TaylorMade Pistol Pete Balls. So they flew me out to Florida, and I got to go to that event. And I was, I'm just a deer in headlights. I'm looking around, and these guys are on the PGA, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And so we do this commercial, to me and Ricky and Matt, and we're talking on the green for like an hour after. Really, really great guys. And Matt's talking to me. I had never met Matt. I went to school with him, but I never met him while he was here. Yeah. And this just goes to show how good of a guy he is. That he's like, when are you going back to Oklahoma? I was like, well, I have a flight out tomorrow morning. He's like, well, I got a jet going back out to Oklahoma City tonight if you just want to hop on. What? And I was like, I said, what? Could you repeat that? And he's like, yeah, just hop on. So so Matt took me over to his house. It was me and my buddy, actually, Colin Dyson, there from Elk City. Shout out Barbara Dyson. But we went to his house, and we went out to the runway, hopped on the jet, and flew back to Oklahoma City that night. So it's a really cool job, and you get put in all these different kind of situations, and you just kind of figure them out, and you get some really cool stories from it.
So you talked about a lot of weddings and different things about that. And when I think of weddings, I think of a lot of drunk bridesmaids. And I don't know anything more that drunk bridesmaids love than Pistol Pete. So I'm wondering, how does Pistol Pete react when you're at a wedding and here comes all the single ladies? What is the go-to protocol? Are you allowed to dance with all the bridesmaids?
Yeah, man, I love dancing. I do a lot of dancing in the head. I'm taking a lot of pictures. So usually what happens is they'll announce Pistol Pete. They play the fight song. I come in, do the fight song, the OSU. Everybody's loving it. And then I take a ton of pictures. I probably take 500 pictures.
Do you smile when you're under the head? Do you smile anyways?
I don't. Everyone always asks me this question. No, I don't smile. But when going back to the bridesmaids, yeah, they at times they can get a bit handsy, but you just kind of roll with it. It comes and goes, but that's only happened a couple times. But you just kind of all right and just go to the next picture.
That is the best. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the phone with me today. This won't be the last time I call you. You made a big mistake giving me your number, Pistol Pete, because I'll probably call you.
I'm in trouble. I will say, if anyone listening is interested in having Pistol Pete at their wedding, at any event, there is if you just Google search Pistol Pete, Oklahoma State, the first link that pops up, it's a little login form, and you can put in the event, and it goes straight to our inbox, and we filter them through. So a lot of people don't know that. We do have a lot of requests, but a lot of people don't know that you can, book Pistol Pete for your event, which I think is a really cool deal. So
I think it's super great. Well, like I said, I appreciate it, Parker, taking the time, and we have now completely debunked the idea that Pistol Pete is the worst. He's not the worst.
Well, I appreciate that.
Val The Gal on 1017 The Zoo.